So this evening, I will be talking for a bit, and then Reverend Scholastica will talk. So just so you know how it will unfold. And I'm going to begin with Reverend Master Mayon, the community, and Reverend Scholastica and I would wholeheartedly like to welcome you to Shasta Abbey this evening. And we would like to express our gratitude that you have arrived safely and are joining us all in listening and practicing Dogen's teaching this week. This evening, we are opening the gates to the Dharma, setting in motion the retreat for Great Master Eihei Dogen, a scholar, a mystic, a teacher, and a poet. This is an opportunity for you all to set down all your concerns and dedicate yourselves to the practice of Soto Zen, of which Eihei Dogen was the founder in Japan. Reverend Master Scholastica and I do have the honor of offering the retreat together with you so that you are able during this week to experience meditation, Dharma talks, discussions, and have the opportunity for spiritual guidance embraced by Dogen's teachings. Now I'd like to talk a bit about the Dharma talks I will be giving. Reverend Scholastica and I will alternate each day, and I will be offering the first talk tomorrow morning. It's an 11 o'clock meditation period, and you will be meditating here in the hall while we give the Dharma talks. I will attempt to cover some interesting and inspiring information regarding Dogen and his Dharma from various readings I have done and thought would be of interest to you. It interested me, so I thought it would interest you. My second Dharma offering will be on Wednesday, and this is some teachings from the Shobogenzo. And then the third talk on Friday I'll be looking at the Shishogi, what is truly meant by training and enlightenment. This is a compilation that the Soto Zen Church put together many years ago of all of Dogen's teachings. And I think that we use it quite regularly, and we're all quite familiar with it. My wish is that Dogen will become more familiar and human to you through what we do this week. Through our discussions, you'll be able to understand him and his way of teaching more clearly. Reverend Scholastica will talk a little bit more about this when she does her business. Okay. So I do have some practical items I'd like to go over, but before doing so, I would like to offer a verse of an example of Dogen's teachings that really almost cover the whole thing. It's been one of my favorites for years, and it comes from Soji, Life and Death. It's the very end little verse. It's really quite lovely. There is an extremely easy way to become Buddha. Simply do not adhere to any evil whatsoever. Do not become attached to life or death. Have compassion for all beings, respect those who are spiritually above you, and have pity on those who are spiritually less advanced than you. Rid yourself of the mental attitude that deplores the 10,000 things as they sprout up, and the mental attitude that craves after them. Let your mind be free of judgmentalism and free of worry. I could have used a little more of that this last week. For to do so is what we call being Buddha. And do not seek for anything else. So to go on to some practical matters. This is a silent meditation retreat, so we are encouraging you to do your best to minimize the distraction of engaging in social conversations. On some level, you will discover a gentle intimacy in the growing silence that you will be offering each other. There will be I do want to assure you there is going to be time for talk, and this will be on Sunday at the end of the retreat, where you can get to know each other and talk some Dharma together. And it'll be a lovely, lovely morning. And yes, it'll be very nice. In the meantime, you can help each other by observing the silence as much as possible. And this is for your own benefit, all of our benefits. We also invite you to join the community in the practice of noble silence. It begins after evening meditation or the last event of the day until after morning service the following day. This encourages stillness and meditative peace throughout the night. Though during this time, if there are questions that come up for you or you need help with something, do inquire about it. There will be a monk in the guest house to take care of your requests. The next thing is please follow the retreat schedule as wholeheartedly as you are able and allow yourself plenty of room to arrive on time for each scheduled event. As most of you know, the schedule is part of the form that we practice in Soto Zen from what Dogen taught, the correct ordering of our daily life and paying close attention to all the details we encounter. Now that being said, if you feel unwell, need rest, or any other difficulties, do not hesitate to let one of the guest monks know. They are available for that purpose. And you will have a copy of the schedule. I think it's out on the table already. Yes, okay, good. All meditations, Dharma talks, and discussions will be held here in the Buddha Hall. And the Dharma talks, as I mentioned, will be offered in meditation here at 11 o'clock for that meditation period. Rising time on the schedule is 5 a.m. I'm assuming all of you are aware of that. And with the number of trainees we have here this week, the wake-up bell will be rung a little earlier than usual. It'll be at 4:50 so that all can use the facilities after morning wake-up and get to the Buddha Hall on time, just giving you a little bit more space. And then there are a few precautions that I'd like to make you aware of. One is it's going to be quite hot this week, so we are encouraging you all to drink plenty of water, and we heartily urge you to rest when necessary. And you can let a guest monk know if you are unable to come to any of the scheduled events. This area's air quality has frequently been designated as very unhealthy in these last few weeks, and it will most likely continue to be so over the next several days. This is due to, as you can discern, all the fires in the area. We do have masks available, and we strongly urge you to use one when needed. We don't want anybody getting any bronchial difficulties or those sorts of things. And you can just, again, ask a guest monk or someone about where you may find those. Okay. Also, a sun hat may be necessary if you're working outside, and if you do not have one of your own, we have some available, and again, I'm sure a guest monk could help you with that to let you know where they are. This area also is listed as a very high fire danger area. So this is just a reminder that many of you are already aware of. We do not light incense or candles in the guest house or any other place, outside altars or anything like that. I think most of you know that, but we wanted to be sure because the fire danger is so high right now. Okay. And after listening to this, if you have any other questions, again, you can talk to someone in the guest house, and they can either direct you to who you need to talk to or answer your questions. Okay? And Reverend Scholastica.
So I just wanted to reiterate what Reverend Master Meiko said and to thank Reverend Master Mayon for inviting us to offer this retreat. It's been a real challenge and a real honor for me. And before I go into just telling you briefly a little bit about the Dharma that I'm going to offer, Reverend Master Daishin has asked us to remind all of us, monks and laity, to please stay walking in the cloister when you're going between the guest house and the Buddha Hall. We've had a cut above come. You may see a lot more debris around, and the ground is very, very uneven, and with lots of limbs and branches and wood chips. So we really ask that you stay in the cloister, that you do not walk in the central garden between when you're coming back and forth to the Buddha Hall. And if you're part of a work crew that may be out dealing with wood, and we hope there'll be a number of you that will be doing that. Please tread carefully. Please watch what you're doing. And as Reverend Meiko said, wear a sun hat. If it gets too hot for you and you've said, oh, yes, I'm happy to work outside, and after half an hour or 7 minutes you think this is not a good idea, then please tell the monk, don't feel that part of the Zen tradition is doing whatever you're asked to do, because we all say yes, but sometimes we have to say no thank you. So please keep that in mind. Anything else, Reverend Master Daishin?
The main thing is the dark. If you're wandering out there in the dark, you don't know what's on the ground.
Did everyone hear that?
In the light of day, it should be fine. But in the dark,
Yeah. So anyway, so take care. So that's that little bit. And then also to mention to you that we have put out a few Dogen books on the coffee table up in the guest house common room, and they'll be there for the duration of the retreat. We may add a couple of books to that, and we do have 2 handouts for you. One is a copy of the Shishogi, which we'll put out later in the week, which you're all welcome to take with you. And then there's another handout that we'll put out later, and they'll be labeled so you know what you can take and what you can't. So what I wanted to say, and I'll try to be brief, is that our poster said that that you hopefully got by email and that you've seen, is that we would do teachings from the Shobogenzo, and that we would be exploring some of Dogen's lesser known prose and poetry. And I've had the good fortune to be able to sort of envelop myself in his poetry, which I had not done in the past. And some of the questions that came up for me were a little different than the ones we ask in the poster. But not substantially. But the ones we ask in the poster were, for you to think about, is where is Buddha in our everyday life? And certainly Master Meiko has referred to that. How does our individual practice enfold all beings? That's one of a term that Dogen often uses. And then how can we realize awakening within our daily practice? Because really it's the awakening in daily practice that for me is the key to understanding Dogen. Some of the poetry that I enjoyed is in a book entitled The Zen Poetry of Dogen. It's by Stephen Hine. It's a collection of his poems, both the ones he wrote in classical Japanese style and then the ones he wrote in classical Chinese style. Fortunately, the translation is in English because I don't read either of those languages. And some of the questions that came up for me were, what does Dogen say about daily life? This is what we live, right? This is our daily life. What does he have to say about it? And what are his questions and his words of advice on how we perceive our daily life and how we conduct our daily life? And then what is his teaching for us on how to become Buddha? Now we know we already are Buddha, but for some of us there are a few curtains in the way of knowing that we're Buddha and acting like Buddha. And Dogen gives us some really good advice. And I think the ultimate question that Dogen asks is, who am I? Who am I? And that actually brings a little confession, which is, even though our poster and our email invited you to the teachings of Dogen and you signed up for a Dogen retreat, but I have to confess to you, this is not a retreat about Dogen. This is not a retreat about Dogen. This is a retreat about you. This is a retreat about each of you. And so please keep that in mind when you're during your meditation, during your periods of reflection. I think the essence of Dogen's teaching came from the question that he asked, that we're all familiar with, that he went to China to find the answer to, is, okay, so we're already enlightened, we already have Buddha nature, so why do we have to train? And his answer to that, I think, that comes out of his teaching to us is that there is no differentiation between training and enlightenment. In other words, being awakened, being in the state of being awake, is just living our daily life. It's getting up, it's going to the toilet, it's having breakfast, it's looking at your email, it's going to work, it's everything that you do, it's your daily life. So I want to read a poem to you from a lovely little book that I found in our library called Who is Dogen Zenji? It was published in the 90s by Soto Shu in Japan, and fortunately it also is in both Japanese and English, so I can read the English to you. Awakening the Buddha Mind. The Buddha mind is nothing other than the mind that urges service on behalf of the world and its people before our own affairs. Because we focus on ourselves, this takes a struggle. But when the Buddha mind is awakened, even hard effort changes into something worth living for. And I think it's the worth living for phrase that, for me, brings up some of the key teachings of Dogen, which somebody else might select something different, but for me, the key teachings are impermanence, letting go, and oneness with all things. Oneness with all things and with all being. And that is what I would like to offer for the 3 Dharma talks that I'm going to be alternating with Reverend Master Meiko. Acceptance, gratitude, and joy. The acceptance has to do with accepting impermanence. The gratitude is the gratitude that arises, believe it or not, when we can actually let go. When we can let go of self, we can let go of our attachment, we can let go of everything that keeps us comfortable. So I say that letting you know that in addition to the hot weather and the smoke, you may be a little uncomfortable this week if you really choose to let go. And also the joy that comes from knowing the oneness that Dogen so eloquently talks about and that Reverend Master Jiyu taught us all as all is one and all is different. So we want to focus on practice. We want to focus on, I would ask that when we do our Dharma talks, we do our Dharma offerings, don't try to understand them with what's up here in your brain. Try to understand it with your Buddha nature, with what's in your mind, in the heart mind, that's wisdom and compassion. So I will read you in closing another poem from this lovely little book, which is titled, Without Practice, No Emergence. To know, and to know is in quotes, and to understand, that's also in quotes, so I'll start over. To know and to understand are different. Even though we know, without putting that knowledge in practice, we cannot understand. Just reading a description of a medicine's good effects won't cure an illness. Zen also is something that we cannot understand until we put it into practice. So you're going to have to do a lot of work this week. We're all going to have to do a lot of work, and I'm not talking about picking up sticks and firewood. So I would leave you with 2 questions that you may wish to meditate on, reflect on during the week. And one is, what is Dogen saying to me? What is Dogen saying to me? And more importantly, what am I saying to Dogen? What is my response to what Dogen says to me? Thank you all very much.